It's rare we get a story as scandalous as this one, but honestly, it's quite scandalous. You see, add-ons have always, in theory, been dangerous. You are basically going to a third party and you're letting them run code inside World of Warcraft. And more now, you're running things like companion applications, which can run code outside of World of Warcraft as well. But we all just lump this under add-ons, and it means we've forgotten just how much trust we sometimes place in our add-on devs. Sometimes they abuse that trust. Sometimes abusing that trust smashes open a much bigger can of worms, such as the argument that the add-on developer knowingly created and distributed illegal malware. And all of this on an add-on that is extremely popular. In fact, a massively popular add-on that was so influential it changed World of Warcraft forever. And it just got deleted from CurseForge. Now, you've probably heard of it. It's called GNOME Sequencer Enhanced. It is a sequencer, and that basically more or less means it's a highly advanced macro runner for doing things in WoW. Now, it can do all sorts of things, but the most common use had always been making one-button rotation macros possible. This would be great for maybe a lazy player, but far more importantly, it was fantastic for people with accessibility needs. And it's a huge add-on. On CurseForge alone, it's got 10 million downloads, and that puts it near the top 200 add-ons, somewhere in the realms of Console Port and Altaholic. Now, not everyone uses it, but obviously a sizable enough portion of players do. Though that's probably fewer players now, given that Blizzard have added the one-button rotation themselves. As it turns out, you should remember that, because as this story develops, past the mere shock, very much turns into one of money and incentives. Now, this might ring true for you. Teaching gamers months of theory before they build anything interesting is a bit of a design failure. That certainly meets my experience, and this is today's video sponsor, Boot.dev, who take a bit of a better route, having us build asteroids. This one is a guided Python project with 20 lessons, it's about 6 hours, and by the end, you'll have made a real arcade game using Pygame. And as you do it, you'll be learning object-oriented programming, vectors, and collision detection, all the proper, original way hand-coded. And I've got to say, from my experience coding, when every concept is attached to something on the screen that you can play, it just is learned so much easier. It's fun. You write the code, you run it, you watch your ship behave like it was engineered by a pack of goblins, and you fix it until it no longer does. And look, the thing is, my degree was programming, but I've got to say this is way closer to how I wish I had been taught. Give me a real problem, make me write the code, and let the understanding come from actually doing the work. And the brilliant thing is that the whole platform of Boot runs on that idea. Boot itself is built like a game with XP, quests, and boss fights, and when you're stuck, there is Boots, their little wizard bear tutor, who will nudge you towards the right answer instead of just handing it over. Seriously, Boots is unbelievably good for what it is. And look, if you want to start, it is so easy. You just scan the QR code, or you head to boot.dev and use code Bellular to get 25% off your entire first year on the annual plan. What sparked this story for us was that on July 16th, GSE got taken down from CurseForge after it was reported for malware-like behavior. Basically, the add-on's companion app would scan your PC for a certain file, and if it found that file, it would flag your GSE account as being restricted, and then it would arm a routine to edit or delete things in that file. It would be armed and ready to go based on an order from GSE servers. Now, that kind of power and access is why a lot of devs ship companion apps at all, and often it's very useful, because add-ons of course can't touch files outside of WoW except for their own settings. But here, it is very much not used for good. And to explain that, we need to talk about the file it was looking for. It was called GRIP-EMS.lua. Basically, it was a file made by another add-on that would be in WoW's Save Variables folder. And if you had this other add-on installed, GSE's app basically stood ready to strip out anything that you copied to that other add-on from GSE. That's shady, but there is a bit of precision that's important here. That order has never been fired off. So it was armed and waiting, but at no point was the actual command to fire given. What that means then is no one can show a single deletion. But what is proven is that, well, there was a loaded gun pointed at the thing in your computer. The scanning and reporting literally run today, and the deleting is just one server flag away. In simple terms, it is, hey, I caught you cheating with another add-on, so I'm going to try and stop that, and I need to access your phone so I can read all of your messages. It's a little bit like that. Comes off as jealous, and by most definitions, It also makes the companion app malware, because that would be unauthorized modification of files, which is illegal under both America's Computer Fraud and Abuse Act and the United Kingdom's Computer Misuse Act, and the companion app is built to do exactly that. Now, this all seems a bit weird. How could another add-on spur GSE to seemingly go so insane? Well, there's a clue in that file name, EMS. The EMS stands for Enhanced Macro Sequencer. Basically, as it turns out, GSE was using dirty tactics to try and take down a competitor. That competitor is called GRIP-EMS. It's a new add-on on the scene, it's only a few months old, and it's got just over 10,000 downloads, though I imagine that number may go up. Now, what's happened is the leaders of the entire GSE community have put on a united front to stop this new add-on GRIP from taking off. The GRIP dev has been banned from the GSE discords without cause or warning, and it's very clear that they know who he is and they want him gone. And not in secret. This is a literal post from the GSE United server. Quite something. When his add-on was brought up, one of the leads said that it was, quote, all created by AI and that he doesn't even know how it works. That might be a valid argument, but not in the context of an obvious and aggressive campaign against that has led to malware being distributed, especially when GSE has got Claude tagged as a contributor. The thing is, those things are genuinely useful in the software engineering world. There's no problem in having that. The thing that matters is trust with your users, and in this case, the blatant hypocrisy. And it's not just that server. WoW Lazy Macros, the premier macro site, seems to be in on it. You see, Satana, the developer of GRIP, has proof that they hid his thread and banned his account. And now, by his account of things, all he had done was suggest his add-on as an alternative to GSE. So, this stuff had been going on, but it was going on quietly. But a month ago, well, things got very loud, and they got loud on Reddit. We saw direct public engagement thanks to a Reddit post, and it was absolutely brutal. People in the GSE community stepped in to defend GSE. But I think there was so much venom and not enough thinking that they stepped on a lot of landmines in the process. One of these mistakes was done by Scary Larry, who owns GSE United. He admitted there are paid features, but he actually tried to downplay them, saying, quote, even if the regular user had them, they would not use them. Which is a bit odd. Now, he then painted GRIP's dev as a copycat using AI, quote, plagiarism at its best. He then specifically took issue with the tools that were made to convert sequences from GSE to GRIP, saying that, quote, 99% of the creators have been supporting GSE for longer than you have been alive. Lovely and authoritative there. And he accused GRIP of, quote, stealing them. Now, he ends his reply by saying that most of it is free, no one is entitled to their work, and the GRIP dev and his buddies are banned for being, quote, fucking thieves. It's quite the post, and buried underneath all of the venom really didn't help you there. There is a real grievance. A creator spent years building those sequence libraries, and, of course, a conversion tool that just moves all of that work across in bulk could feel odd to those people, and that does deserve an honest answer and some engagement. But the answer that they shipped was code designed to delete the converted copies off your machine. That is not something that users would have known about or consented to. Now, I'm going to cover the literal technical details shortly, but if nothing else, Larry lost in the court of public opinion. His post was downvoted so much that it was hidden, and it's obvious why. Regardless of the fact, it leads as aggressive towards someone who has only ever seemed to shown up as a fair, reasonable competitor. Especially when the competitor's response looks like this. Proof. Proof of how they're attacking his add-on directly, and proof that they are paywalling features. The implication here, if not the claim, is that there's been a cabal running the show this whole time, and that for the first time, that cabal is a little bit scared. That the single-button assistant within WoW that Blizzard shipped has probably eaten a huge portion of their potential user base, and that's maybe put them on the defensive. It's got them flinching. And that in that environment where they've been unopposed for years, ruling over the entire enhanced macro scene, that they've had dominance that they've enjoyed. And now they've resorted to posting tasteless slop, basic mob tactics, and shipping literal malware to retain that dominance. And it only takes one glance at the competition to understand why. The GRIP-EMS CurseFor page is a quiet declaration of war. Here's what it reads. Free means free, no paywalls, no Patreon tier, nothing held back for a pro build. If a macro sequencer charges you for multi-window editing or extra keybinds, this is the one that does not. Now, it is true that GSE has a Patreon supporter version with extra quality of life features, and GRIP's developer is waging war against that business model. He's basically saying, use my add-on because I won't charge you for things. And as basic as it is, GSE's dev and mates are trying to protect their empire because it's also their paycheck. Well, their paycheck and a few other people's besides, because there's more than just GSE itself. You know the way a bunch of streamers have weak auras and UI strings behind paywalls that kind of skirts Blizzard's rules and paid add-on services? Well, GSE has actually got the exact same thing. And it's there because of genuine friction. Setting up enhanced macros is a very complicated affair, and that means there's decent money on the table for whoever's willing to just go and make the best DPS rotations and then lock them behind their Patreon. Because that is someone doing a bunch of engineering work and then selling it as a product. Now, the status quo is basically working for people, and that means that someone new coming into the scene is perceived as a threat to their control and a threat to their wallets, because if a converter tool will easily convert things, then, well, it's going to break containment of Patreon pretty quickly, isn't it? Yes, it's a threat to their control and a threat to their wallets. That's good. And sometimes I like it when I have those threats too. And that's because it's called competition. It's literally good. If you are an incumbent, if you're doing well for yourself and you get threatened, that's often a good thing. Because it's competition. It may not be good for you literally right now, but it's good for your users. It's good for everyone else because competition tends to drive innovation and better offerings to people. Competition's coming for you, it comes for all of us, and that's good for humanity. And instead of reacting to the competition by competing better, well, what do? Well, the community's leaders reached for bans and buried threads. The GSE dev reached even further though, reaching into his users' machines, turning his app into what most definitions would actually call illegal malware. And that is not even to mention all the attempts to hide this, because yes, there is a little bit more to this story yet. So far I've talked about the CurseForge takedown that got us onto this story and the big Reddit thread, but that was only the spark. You see, the inferno really started whenever GRIP's dev Satana, real name Jesper, brought every receipt that he could get his hands on. Enter this GitHub page. It contains exhaustive documentation of GSE's attack on, and this bit is my choice of words, user freedom, because the choice to use another add-on is something that you should have and that shouldn't be attacked. It's a behemoth of a document, so I'll just give you the quick version of things. Though, before that, you may be asking if we can trust this guy. Clearly, he does have a horse in this race, and while it's not a full answer, he does actually answer this himself, and his answer is no. But you can trust the code, and you can look at the code. You see, because GSE's companion app is an Electron app, all of the JavaScript within is actually exposed for the world to see. That means you can audit that sucker. Now, in the first release, the GSE dev really didn't seem to care to hide his work. Every 10 minutes, it would scan your files for GRIP-EMS.lua. If it found that, it would then report back to the server, it would flag your account as restricted, and then it would wait for World of Warcraft to close. Once World of Warcraft was closed, it would then make a decision. Delete all of GSE sequences inside GRIP's file, or just leave them be. Now, in future versions, they tried to obfuscate this functionality, first hiding the name that they were searching for by encoding it, and then by removing it from the code entirely, and instead fetching it from the GSE servers. And what also didn't go away is the deleting part. It actually grew, and now there is a general engine that lets GSE servers list, read, rewrite, or delete any add-on saved files on your machine on command while World of Warcraft is closed. Now, every check so far has found that functionality dormant, but it is sitting on your PC if you have that installed. And what we first knew as a single target weapon against one add-on has now become an any target weapon that, as far as anyone can show, has thankfully still never been fired. But it's still malware, and it's still worrying. Now, that's not all the post covers. It then goes into excruciating detail about how GSE's add-on leads people to the companion app and about how it paywalls content. Basically, install the add-on through CurseForge and it walks you through installing the companion via a direct link. And that is rather curious because the CurseForge listing never mentions an external app being part of this. And obviously, hiding something like that is not really a great look. Now, on the paywall front, it's a bit more complicated, but at least interestingly so. Though where it gets spicy is that GSE have panic changed a lot of this stuff since the scrutiny started, and they may have hurt themselves. So originally it worked like this. The Patreon build of the add-on was exactly the same, but it had a single flag that would activate a bunch of additional features. Now the funny thing here is that because .lua files are just sitting there on your computer, you can just open them up in, I don't know, Notepad++ and edit the file yourself. And that's the funny thing about this. It wasn't much of a paywall. There's no license key or anything like that. And that does make it hard to argue that it was really paywalling anything except for a tiny bit of convenience. But I'd say far more importantly, knowledge. Because if you don't know that you can just change one little flag in the add-on you've already got, then you will think it's a full paywall, and I'd be keen to see what a judge would think about that. Anyway, when this all came out, they kind of panicked, and they changed things but made it look worse for them. They basically spun a bunch of the extra features into a separate module called GSE Quality of Life. And here's where they're in a lot of trouble. That add-on module comes from the Patreon, and that explicitly goes against Blizzard's rules, which are fully against paywalling any code. You cannot paywall code. Now, you can paywall an import string or something like that, but the actual add-on code cannot be paywalled, and in doing that, they paywall code, right? Well, actually, no, there's a catch, because that code is actually available on their public GitHub repo, so you can just download it and drop it in the folder. You don't need to be on their Patreon for that. So there is technically no code being withheld behind a paywall. It's just a matter of convenience, and according to the literal lines of Blizzard's policy, there is no problem with that. Although again, a judge might argue that needing to know where to go to get the thing that otherwise is on the Patreon, that would just be a paywall to most users, because how can a user know what they don't know? And it's not like they just scream, hey, you can go to our Patreon for the Quality of Life build, but don't bother doing that because it's on our GitHub, just drag the files in. Now, as for Blizzard's answer to all this, we do basically know where their standards are. UI packs, TSM Premium, and even paid leveling guides like Zygors or Rested XP have never been taken out by Blizzard. Now, an add-on they did actually take out was actually mine, but it's really quite funny. Yes, there was a Patreon element, but it had nothing to do with the actual add-on itself. It was literally just Patreon to support development. What they got us for was actually not against their add-on policy, it was against their copyright policy, because basically we were trying to rewrite and voice act quests to sort of do a backdoor revamp of World of Warcraft's old zones. And I gotta say, some of it was a banger, and I think there's stuff we did in that is still better than some of Blizzard's current questing. But anyway, we weren't taken out for add-on policy stuff, we were taken out for copyright. On the add-on policy side, it is very clear that as long as the code goes to the user for free, well, additional upcharges seem to be permitted. Blizzard's actions do actually prove that. As long as the add-on code isn't literally paywalled, they will turn a blind eye. Now, to be honest, some of that probably is measured and healthy to keep the dev community healthy and incentivized. But obviously, whenever malware enters the picture, along with some obvious shitty workarounds that feel like, the words of the law versus the spirit of the law, well, then it gets to be a different story. And if Blizzard aren't to do anything, one group who could would be CurseForge. It took a while, but they did take action. You see, CurseForge had been contacted by Jesper and another add-on dev, KK Thanks, who had been following the story carefully. And you can actually check out their blog post for a more technical take once you're done watching this. It's a very fascinating read. Anyway, CurseForge nuked the page on July 16th. But a few days later, here we are. CurseForge seems to have let them back on. The page looks much the same, but with one key change. There is now a disclaimer saying that extra features are available. Good to know. And that's it. No guidance or anything, just a link to the GitHub wiki that doesn't actually say anything about the Quality of Life module. If I was CurseForge, I would consider that to not be acceptable. It feels like malicious compliance, especially because the companion app still reads all the files that it wants. And through all of this, at the time of recording, we have still not seen a public word from the GSE dev himself. You might then be wondering what next. Well, we can only wait and see. And if this story doesn't fizzle out, it might actually have some pretty brutal implications. I mean, CurseForge are allowing an add-on that links to malware on their site and that paywalls convenience with a workaround that I would call almost offensively low effort. And if enough eyes land in GSE because of this, maybe those eyes will start to look at other examples of the same thing. Or maybe not. And as much as the GSE companion app does literally match the definition of illegal malware, I bring that up because of the principle. I don't think that'll amount to anything, and that is especially because no real damage was done. The loaded gun was never fired. Though, of course, trust was broken, and trust is a real thing that matters. As for you then, if you're a GSE user, I would recommend moving away, actually. Definitely move away from the companion app. The people involved with this have shown their true colors, in my opinion, and in a way that means I would not be comfortable keeping software from them on my computer. And if any community starts to post AI art slop with slogans like "one community, one goal," well, maybe you should think, hang on a second, is this in service of me, like the people, or is this in service of them, the people running the community and the people profiting off it? Because stuff that sounds like that tends to be propaganda crafted to have an obvious effect. And you should be aware of that in more things than just this. And you should be even more aware of it if it appeals to your personal preferences, worldview, biases, etc. Because that's how you can get co-opted into things. So yeah, GSE community stuff looking really weird, GSE development stuff looking really weird. Personally, I wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. Now, if you want more technical details on this story, then definitely go and check out KK Thanks' post on the topic. And if you want another video to watch, how about Ian Hazzikostas, game director of WoW, hinting at archaeology in The Last Titan?